Your MPU also has an override switch. The factory calls it an override switch, but I don't like to call it an override switch because when I think of override, I'm thinking that when I flip that switch, all of my relays should turn on. That is not what happens. It's basically a pause switch. So it basically stops the scheduled clock from running. So anything involving the schedule, whether it be switches, photocells, occupancy sensors, anything for schedules, this switch stops that. So anytime this switch is flipped, none of these relays will respond to any input. Okay? The only thing they'll respond to is that. Okay? Now, that's very important because it's our #1 phone call. My lights won't work. My switches don't work. My photocell is not picking me up, or my occupancy sensor is not picking me up when I walk in the room. It's because somebody either on the cleaning crew or what have you came in and flipped this to keep the lights on while they were working, and they didn't turn it back to normal mode. Okay? So when you go back into normal mode, it doesn't matter what status you left your relays in, the internal clock will catch up and it'll turn the relays to where they need to be. Okay? Your system is also has automatic daylight savings time, so you don't have to worry about changing that. The astronomical clock is based off of geographical location. Unfortunately, the closest city is LA, so you may be off by a few minutes. But other than that, you're golden. Okay? Any questions?
The hallways.
The hallways.
The corridors inside.
Yes.
What time do they turn them off and on?
They turn off and on depending on the occupancy sensor. And we'll go over that next. Okay? Any questions?
The hallways or the classrooms?
The corridors. Classrooms are on.
Yeah, the classrooms are not on this, but they are on occupancy sensors, but they're standalone. Okay? So we can break for a minute, we can get set up. All right. Okay, so this portion of the training involves your occupancy sensor and indoor photocell features. Your occupancy sensor here, which is rated for 2,000 square feet, is a multi-technology occupancy sensor. It consists of passive infrared technology and ultrasonic technology. Are you familiar with both technologies? Okay, so just for training purposes, the passive infrared is meant to pick up major motion in a space, whereas the ultrasonic is meant to detect minor motion. Okay, the ultrasonic emits an RF signal, and depending on how fast that signal comes back will determine if there's occupancy in the space. Same for the passive infrared. Passive infrared is emitted through this lens here at the bottom of the occupancy sensor, and the lens is multifaceted, so when the rays from the IR beam shoots out, it's looking for someone to cross from one beam into the next. So if you stay in one beam, the occupancy sensor won't see you. If you walk through the beams, occupancy sensor will pick you up, turn the lights on. Okay? Now, earlier I said that the occupancy sensor and the photocells work hand in hand. So when you walk into a space and the occupancy sensor picks you up, it says, okay, relay, turn on. Well, the photocell, in the meanwhile, is looking at the space whether the lights are on or off. And if it says there's too much light in the space, it says, wait, we're not going to turn lights on yet. We're going to wait until it's dark enough, then I'm going to turn the lights on. Okay, so if the occupancy sensor says yes, the photocell says no, then the lights are going to turn off. So, I don't know if I'm tall enough to do this. Well, we'll see. If I put enough light on the photocell, the lights in the space should turn off. And I don't know if I'm tall enough.
Is there a way to adjust that?
There we go.
There we go.
So as of right now, the photocell says there's too much light in space, no light, okay?
So on a bright day when the sun
You can see, lights
is
come right back on.
shining brightly, Dad's going to go ahead and turn this off for this hallway?
Yes, so tell your staff to not be alarmed if the lights are not on in a given space. That is by design. That's what's supposed to happen with daylight harvesting.
Can you adjust it, or is it just set?
It can be adjusted through the handheld unit menu, okay? And that's something that we did not discuss, but if you were to call myself or tech support, we can walk you over the phone how to do that. Okay? Any questions on occupancy sensor and photo cell? Okay, your occupancy sensor has a built-in timer. Okay, if you were to take this bottom cap off, not the lens, but the housing that the cap is mounted to, or that the housing that the lens is mounted to, if you were to pop that cap off, you'll see a series of colored knobs in the occupancy sensor. You'll see a red, a green, a black, and a blue. The blue is not supported, but the red and the green are your sensitivity dials for your passive infrared, which is red, obviously, and your green, which is your ultrasonic. The black knob is your timer. All of our occupancy sensors out of the box are default to turn lights off anywhere between 12 and 15 minutes. So that dial on the knob is right around halfway in the spectrum. If you were to turn it all the way clockwise, the timer goes from 15 minutes to 30 minutes. So you can have lights on here for 30 minutes at a time if you want to. But right now they should be on default anywhere between 12 and 15 minutes. Questions? All right, so let's talk about the digital switches and we'll be done. Okay, so what we're looking at here is your locking cover for your GreenMax digital switch. You have two different digital switches here on this site. You have a 4-button variety and a 2-button variety. The buttons are placed depending on what areas or what you're looking to control out of the space. Okay, so for this particular switch, you have your first 2 buttons, which are going to control your rotunda, and the second button, which is going to control your lobby. Okay. The third and the fourth buttons will control this corridor. So you have your C and your D. Okay. And these are momentary buttons, so one press is on, press it again, you turn the same relay off. Pretty simple, right?
So are these activating something that will turn off when there's no occupancy? Or will they just stay on until you activate them again?
These buttons coincide with the actual status of the relay. So if the relay is on, then your LED will be on. So you can come here and you can turn it off. Okay? If you do not have occupancy, then that light will be off. Okay? And if the occupancy sensor doesn't pick you up by the time, or if you walk into the space and it doesn't pick you up, you can come here and turn the lights on. Okay, so in that case, the occupancy sensor and the switch work together. They're on the same priority level. The only thing that would prevent lights from coming on would be your photo cell. So if you came here and you tried to turn the lights on for this hallway, and you just had just a one flash here on the button, then that means that the photo cell is keeping those lights from turning on. Okay. Same deal on the other end of the hallway, except you have a 2-button switch there, and the 2 buttons there are controlling the same relays here, the C and D relays. Okay. You have the same setup on the A and B side, where you have a 4-button switch here, right by the electrical room or the media room here, and then you have a 2-button switch at the entryway on the other end of the hall. You have a 2-button switch at the main door here, and you have a 4-button switch over here by the ladies' room. It does the same thing.
So if you just leave those on, they're all controlled by the relays and the sensors.
They're all controlled by the occupancy sensors. Occupancy sensors run the show if these are locked.
Keys to the boxes.
Got one, the rest is coming on the front. One set for the keyed switches and one for the